All right, so for the past couple weeks, I've been doing 7th and 8th grade math. Now, if you're anything like me, a college student, you would think 7th and 8th grade math, that is so far below me. That math is so easy. I have nothing to learn from that math. Man, let me tell you, that couldn't be further from the truth. Now, if you're new here, these types of videos are specifically made to document the process of getting up to Calculus 2 mastery using Khan Academy. So that basically means that I'm going through subject by subject, maxing out Khan Academy, kind of like some sort of sick video game, all the way through Calculus 2. And each week I collect data to basically give you guys a close approximation if you wanted to try something like this for yourself. Now, with that being said, this data chunk was kind of a longer span. It went from May 22 all the way through June 21st. In that time, I clocked a total of 20.49 hours, which averages to roughly 40 minutes a day. And in that time, I mastered 7th grade math, woohoo. And I've almost mastered 8th grade math as well, which puts me this far in my total journey. Now, beyond the numbers, there were two things that I found absolutely fascinating. Number one, the difference between memorizing and intuitively understanding something is just crazy. I felt like when I was in school learning math, and possibly like learning this type of math that I just went through for the first time, when the teacher put up a new term or a theorem or a formula, my brain would just automatically go into, how do I memorize that? How do I, what is that? Okay, that makes that, okay. Yep, memorized it. And I would go through and memorize things because that was how I felt like that would give me my best chance to do well on a test. Whereas now, when I'm going back and I'm incentivized to actually learn this stuff for real and intuitively understand it, because if I don't, the MIT content's gonna kick my butt. I'm learning things differently. And I'll give you a concrete example. When I was going through 7th grade math, there was this theorem that came along called the triangle inequality theorem. And this theorem, when it was first presented to me, I was like, okay, that's what that is. I'll try to memorize that. And I would get the questions wrong. I did not know what it means. And that's why I love Khan Academy so much, is because on Khan Academy, they would be like, hey, triangle inequality theorem, you don't need to memorize this. This makes intuitive understanding. And here's why. The triangle inequality theorem is basically, they give you on a non-right triangle, two sides of the triangle, and you need to figure out what that third length of the triangle could be. And you can figure that out by extending both sides of the triangle and figuring out when it falls flat into a line. And then you do it the other way as well. And where does that fall flat into a line where it's no longer a triangle? And then it's an inequality. And you have between these two ranges, and it makes intuitive sense. You're like, I don't need to memorize that. I just need to figure out what this third side can be by determining what length it would be when it collapses into a straight line. And that's the difference between intuitive understanding and memorizing. And yes, I'm not going to use this down the street. I'm not gonna walk outside and be like, I'm gonna use the triangle inequality theorem today. That's not gonna happen. But moving forward, I think it's important to be more in the space of intuitively understanding something, because then you can use math to solve real world problems. And that's where it gets exciting. Okay, and number two, I listened to this podcast, and it's by the founder of AngelList, Naval Ravikant. Students will write into him and they'll be saying things like, Naval, what should I be learning? How should I be studying? That kind of thing. And he always tells students that they should learn the basics of math. Don't worry about the higher level stuff, just focus on the fundamentals, get really good at those. And I think that used to mean to me that, higher math doesn't matter, that You should just stay down here. You don't need to even touch that stuff. But I think now I'm starting to understand that what he meant by that is that if you go back in math and develop an intuitive understanding of math, you'll have an easier time, if you want to go into that higher level math. And I found this very interesting because I was doing an 8th grade math problem, and this shows how math builds on itself like crazy. I was doing an 8th grade math problem that looked like this. And this is just a math problem that asks you to find the slope between 2 points. Pretty simple, right? You just use the slope equation, change in y over change in x, to find the answer. Now that seemed really familiar to me because I was like, man, I did a problem similar to this. I can't put my finger on it. And I found it, and it's from calculus. And that's what this problem looks like. Now the cool part is that these problems are solved the exact same way. You still just find the slope of the line. The only difference is that the calculus problem has a change in context. You're finding the slope of a tangent line instead of the slope of a regular line. And that's context is applied specifically to calculus. But what's cool is that you solve it the same way. And what's cool about that is just seeing how an 8th grade math problem is solved the exact same way as a calculus problem. So knowing your stuff in 8th grade, you can see how it builds into something that you'll be applying in calculus. And that is just so cool. Anyways, thank you so much for allowing me to nerd out about math with you guys. Oh, and if anybody out there wants to try something similar to what I'm doing here on Khan Academy, I left my Notion template and an example of how I track everything down below for you sick individuals out there. But thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.